coming back to the rational thinking, and that's there's almost a responsibility, if I understood what you said right, on every citizen to be a rational thinker, if indeed, I mean, because what I sort of understood you to say is you have to do the research, you have to think about things that are being presented, and then make an informed decision, or the best possible decision in your estimation, based on that. That sounds like a lot of work.
It is, and that's perhaps why a lot of people don't do that. We are lazy. Being rational requires you to actually put forth the effort and to investigate things, and some of us don't want to do the work. We just want to, I'll say Dr. Jeffery is the wisest man I've ever said. Anything he says is true.
You'd be the first.
Right? So if I have a question, I'll call you, and whatever you tell me, I'll do. We are lazy.
Well, my car's awful dirty. I wish that would.
Okay, there you go.
But I get your point, and I fall into the category too, because in an era where, so growing up, and I tell my students this, and they don't even understand the context, but growing up, we got two channels depending on which way you turn the antenna outside.
I'm right there with you, yes.
And so at any given time, you were only able to look at one or the other.
Yes.
Now it's almost, I don't do any of the news notifications, because otherwise I would be
it's information overload. There's more information than we can possibly take in. That is a problem. But I think relying on just one channel or one newspaper or one person to tell you everything, that's not good. You need to seek people whose views are different from yours. You need to be open. I don't think anybody's 100% right about everything. My wife tells me that I think I'm 100% right about everything, but I know I'm not, okay? I even know there are better cars out there than Mustangs, okay?
Wow. Did we get that on tape?
You've got it on tape. But it also proves another point. We tend to believe things, and we're very resistant to accepting something that differs from what we already believe, even if it smacks us in the face. COVID is a great example of that. I firmly believe COVID exists. I've been immunized, you know, the whole bit. I know people who thought COVID was not real. They believed all the negative stuff that's all over Facebook. One of them almost died from COVID. So, you know, do you believe the scientists who've spent their entire lifetime studying this stuff, or some guy who posted something on Facebook?
Well, in defense of the other side, there are also scientists and researchers who, not that COVID doesn't exist, but some of the other issues around it. And of course, this isn't, but it is a good segue for me to ask, can you think of some great examples of journalism, like for folks who are not really, and especially in this time of so much journalism, can you think of even maybe some recent examples of that was good journalism, from your perspective of fact, truth-based, building trust?
Okay. Well, you really want to put me on the spot, don't you? Some recent, really good journalism.
Okay, well,
I could go back a few years.
Go back a few years if you need to.
I think the Pentagon Papers case is an example of really, really good journalism. Now, the government went to court to try to block publication of the Pentagon Papers. And for anyone who doesn't know what the Pentagon Papers was about, it was a multi-year study by the government of the war in Vietnam. The conclusion was we could never win the war in Vietnam, but we didn't end it. We kept on going and going and going, and young people were dying. This was released by a whistleblower to the New York Times. The government found out they were planning to publish it, sought an injunction. Meanwhile, the Washington Post gets the same stuff, and they have to decide, do we publish it or not, since a pending, court hearing is going to be held by the Supreme Court. Ultimately, they both published it. The government really could only prove that it would embarrass them. But did the public need to know that the government was having us fight a war they knew we couldn't win? I think we deserve to know that. And had my child died in that war and the government knew years before we couldn't win it, you know, government's not perfect. It's government supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. I think there are too many people in government who think they are there just to put money in their pockets. I really believe that.
Well, you have to ask the question based on what you just said. So why would we be there? If they know we can't win, what's the end game? And that would be good for us to know, because maybe we would buy into it.
Right.
Maybe it is something worthy of staying, or if it's just making more money for them.
I'm sure there are many companies that made a lot of money. Plus, the reason I've read over and over and over again from various sources is no president wanted to be the first president to lose a war. Is it better to be embarrassed or have young men die? We have to keep government straight, and that's one of the main reasons I think the press exists.